Welcome. I'm Kathy Dalton of the Living Well Network, and I'm glad to have you with us here today, both those of you on Zoom today and through YouTube for our panel, Unlocking a World of Support for Aging in Place. We have a great group of organizations here today to help you learn about what resources are available to help all of us age in place here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This event is brought to you today by my organization, the Living Well Network, which is a program of the Mariah L. Baldwin Community Center, which is our new name. The Living Well Network fosters a strong, connected, engaged, and healthy community of Cambridge residents age 55 and up. We promote lifelong learning, aging in place, physical, mental, and social health, and connecting older adults to each other, to others in the community, and to useful resources, programs, and services for all of us. We produce seminars like this one, and you'll find others on our YouTube channel. We have an acclaimed free weekly e-newsletter, which lists events and resources of interest for older adults, which happen both online and in person. We have weekly yoga and Tai Chi classes. They're very low cost. We have a book group on aging and ageism. We provide one-on-one technical support to our members. We have an ongoing affinity group called Get Ready to Age in Place, where the idea for this program was hatched, and we have much, much more to offer. Today, we have 4 great organizations with us, but they're not the only organizations that serve older adults here in Cambridge. I want to highlight one in particular, Cambridge Neighbors. Cambridge Neighbors is a membership organization, and they're dedicated to helping older adults age 60 and older. They function on the village model, which some of you may be familiar with, but they offer many services and events to their members. I'll share a link with all of you about them, which includes a video that we produced last year where they describe their organization and its services in more detail. If you're watching this on YouTube, look for many of the resources and links we mentioned during the session in the comments below, where I'll post them. Okay, let me introduce our panelists today. We've been waiting all this time. First, we have Annie Fowler from the Somerville Cambridge Elder Services.
Hello, good morning. Nice to be here.
And Elizabeth Aguilo from Paine Senior Services.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
And Susan Pacheco from Somerville Cambridge. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. From the Cambridge Council on Aging.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Good to see familiar faces and names as well.
And finally, our first speaker, Janet Secco-Serrati of FriendshipWorks. Go ahead, Janet.
I am unmuted and I am really delighted to be here. I love the title of this group and I love the title of the Living Well Network, because that is what we want to do. We want to live well throughout our lifespan. And I think all of us who are here, are looking at our older years and how can we best live well now. And so unlocking a world of support for aging at home, I think is great. So FriendshipWorks, our enduring vision has been to create connection and to end elder isolation. But our mission really is to reduce social isolation, improve quality of life, which is such a big thing. It is about it really is about living well and maintaining the dignity of all of us as we age. And we are now in our 40th year. And people say, like 40 years ago, most people were not talking about social isolation and loneliness. And I think we intuited it that, throughout our lifespan, having connection, having friends, having people to lean on, letting other people lean on us is part of being a human being. I think we're pack animals and we need one another. And some of us just need one person, who we call a friend. And some of us need a lot of people depending on our personalities. And we want to make sure that nobody is alone who doesn't choose to be. And as I said, our hour, I'm going to talk just very briefly, and then we're going to show a video that will tell you a lot more of the core of the story. But I am aging in place. I've been at FriendshipWorks since it started. So I was a young woman when we were called Match Up Interfaith Volunteers in 1984. And about 15 years ago, changed our name to FriendshipWorks. And just for fun, just to say, I love the name Match Up because it's about matching people up with one another. But Match.com came into the world and people started thinking we were a dating service, and there were lots of other things. So the world changes and we need to change with it. And I think all of our organizations are doing that. FriendshipWorks has 5 programs that I'll talk about very briefly. And our history, though, but 2 of them are in Cambridge. The other 3 programs are in the Boston in other neighborhoods. We serve people 60 and older, 55 and older if you are vision or hearing impaired. Our programs include friendly visitation, which you'll hear about in a minute, medical escort, going with people to a doctor's appointment, staying with them, making sure they get home safely, making it a friendly visit, something that can be anxiety provoking, creating it as a friendly time. We do not do that in Cambridge. We have a pet visitation program called Pet Pals that we do in Cambridge, but it is in assisted living and nursing homes. And we also have a music program and a one-time assistance. But I'm going to focus on friendly visiting. So maybe the best way is to show the video now and then explain to you how you can refer people to us, how you can get involved, or how you might want to volunteer. And really our sense is about creating friendships across, and it's sometimes harder for us to meet people that we might really connect with. And so our job is to facilitate that, but the friendship gets created by the people who are involved themselves. So Kathy, if you can show that. This just was shown on WBZ, by the way, Channel 5 just a week ago. So it's very fresh.
All right, can you see the video? People nod? Yeah, okay.
Is a nonprofit whose goal is to combat loneliness and social isolation in older adults. They serve people in Boston, Newton, Somerville, Brookline, and right here in Cambridge.
I like Sarah because she always started out with, "Hi, Carolyn, this is Sarah."
And that's how a friendship was born.
And to stop and think about, oh, what should we talk about now? Because we're just talking nonstop.
Started by Janet Seckle-Serrani 40 years ago, FriendshipWorks brings together older adults with younger volunteers for friendship and assistance in an effort to reduce social isolation.
For the older adults whose lives we inhabit and are part of and who share their lives with us, it is about that there's a reason that you're still here in this world, that somebody cares about you.
That's how Carolyn and Sarah became friends. Sarah started calling Carolyn during the pandemic, and eventually, when it was safe, they met in person, going on walks, to the gym, or just hanging out.
If it's cold and windy, rainy, whatever, we might color, talk. She might show me how to do something on the computer. She's
You're smart too.
please.
It's a mutual friendship. Sarah signed up to get to know someone who could teach her the history of Cambridge, and Carolyn is more introverted and benefited from the connection after losing multiple siblings in only a few years.
Even though we come from different generations and different places and different backgrounds, there's a lot that we have in common, like our love for our family and our cultural and social traditions.
Volunteers are 18 years old and up, and older adults are typically 60 and older. The nonprofit facilitates the friendships based on shared interests and availability.
We look at people's openness, who they are, and we bring people together and we let the magic happen that happens when 2 people who care about each other come together.
And that magic is why friendship works.
Yeah, that's my friend.
There you go.
Okay, it was a little bit difficult and it was a little choppy there. If you want a copy of it, willing to share it, but you get a sense of really it is about friendship. And my mantra is that you're never too old to have a new friend and you're never too young to have an old friend. That is kind of like what I like to say, but our matches are sometimes people of the same age. Sometimes the volunteer's older than the person that they're visiting. So it's not an age segregated piece at all. You know, sometimes people just have luck of health and are very healthy at 80, and somebody has a lot of, you know, you may be alone for reasons that are no fault of anybody at 60 or 65, or just want somebody to be, you know, come to visit. So our volunteers are ages 18 to 90. You could be older, but I think our oldest volunteers have been 90. And as I said, persons that we match, and our participants are 60 and older, or 55 and older if you have vision or hearing impairment. I will take questions at the end about the kind of matches, but we take great care in looking at, you know, who you are, what you're interested in, both for the volunteer and the participant. It's mutuality, it's about reciprocity. I spent some time with both. Very lucky with both Carolyn and Sarah in that video. And let me tell you, Sarah, who's the volunteer, who's in her upper 30s, is just, this is a friendship that is very special to her and what she gains. So it really is a two-way street. And there are times, sometimes when we're more, you know, the listener, and sometimes we're more the sharer, but that's something that gets worked out. And as with any friendship, sometimes it, you know, you help with something, you go for a walk. Maybe that's why somebody wants somebody, is to get out and you don't want to walk alone. And so to go out and walk and go for a cup of coffee. We have some matches that they go out for lunch each week. That's what they prefer. Others who watch TV, others who might sew together or, you know, do a puzzle, whatever one, you know, people share. And we look at that. We even look at people's allergies. If the person who's home is hosting and they have a cat, the volunteer can't be allergic to cats. So it really is like matchmaking, but it is for friendship. We also have a walk to end elder isolation that happens the week after Mother's Day. It's an elderbration and walk to end elder isolation. It is held in Jamaica Plain, but anybody from any part of Boston, we encourage you to come and enjoy and meet one another. It's intergenerational, it's cross-cultural, and starts at Rogerson House in Jamaica Plain. If you want to join our mailing list, you'll find out from Kathy later how to reach us. And as I said, we serve, if you know people who need us, we serve all of Boston. I say wherever the mayor is the mayor, we serve all of Boston and all of Brookline. And in the last 5 to 7 years, we started doing friendly visiting in some other services in Newton. And about 4 years ago, came into Cambridge and Somerville and just do our friendly visiting and our pet visitation. So those are the two programs for if you're in the Cambridge area. You can volunteer, because sometimes the way to have a friend is to get out and volunteer, or just an extra companion. You can, you know, be somebody who comes and visits with you in your own home or takes walks with you, or you can get involved in any other way with FriendshipWorks. We're really on a mission to make sure that we are all connected and that you get connected with a friend and then, you know, the wider community as is. And I think I have the most special job in the world, because I think you work with the best of people when people volunteer, and when we talk about creating connection. So I have so many more stories that I could share with you and tell you about, but I think my time may be up, and I would welcome questions. We also partner, I will say, with a lot of different, so the other groups who are here speak, you know, will refer people to a Somerville Cambridge Elder Services or Paine Social Services or Cambridge Council on Aging. So you can refer yourself or you can refer a friend to us, and we'll try and make a really good match.
Super. Thank you. Thank you very much, Janet. I'm going to tell people that we are holding questions till the end, but if you don't want to forget or you want to get it out now, you can put any questions in the chat and we'll go to those along with the live questions later on. Our next speaker is Annie Fowler from Somerville Cambridge Elder Services. I messed up her name in an email, so I'm missing everybody's name up, but not your name, but I did Cambridge Somerville, as you might remember. So I know it's Somerville Cambridge.
Yes.
So, all right, so go ahead, Annie.
Okay, well, thank you, Kathy. And I want to say thank you to Janet too. She, the work that FriendshipWorks is doing really is amazing. They're so thoughtful about the matching, and our clients and staff are really so appreciative of what they're doing. And I think it's wonderful to think about either going in to be matched or to be a volunteer. There's just two great options there. So thank you. So we are what's called Somerville Cambridge Elder Services. We're called an aging service access point in Massachusetts. Aging service access points are really unique to Massachusetts, and we're so lucky to have them. And there is an aging service access point, or ASAP, that serves every city and town in Massachusetts. We appear, I think, to a lot of people to be a state agency, and we're actually not. We're a private nonprofit, but we have a lot of federal, state, Medicaid contracts, and our federal and state contracts are similar across the board to all of the ASAPs in Massachusetts. And I'm gonna put an email address in the chat after this. If you are not in Somerville or Cambridge and are interested in what the ASAP is that serves your city or town, you can email this address. So I will do that in a minute. But we also have some private funding, and I say that for two reasons. One, that we have some programs that are unique to Somerville Cambridge Elder Services as a private nonprofit with our private and grant funding. And also because this is the opportunity, if there are things going on in Somerville and Cambridge that you feel are not being offered, we'd love to hear about that. We'd love to be creative and resourceful, work with our councils on aging and other organizations like Paine to see what we're missing and not offering to our older residents in Somerville and Cambridge. Our mission is to assist and support individuals, older adults and adults with disabilities and their caregivers in living in the setting of their choice for as long as possible, safely and with dignity. We do that in a lot of different ways. And our mission is similar to the mission of other ASAPs across the state. Our biggest program is our state subsidized home care program. With that program, I guess I should also say that the setting of people's choice is generally their own home. And it isn't always, but generally that's what we're aiming to do. And if it isn't, we can also assist people in finding a more supportive setting, like an assisted living or a nursing home. But with our home care program, we assist individuals in staying in their own home. We do that by putting in services like light housekeeping, transportation. We can do meal preparation, grocery shopping. We can do hands-on care. We call that personal care. We can do heavier cleaning. And the service of our home care program that most people have heard, and this is actually a federal program, is Meals on Wheels, where we deliver a meal in the middle of the day for individuals. If you are enrolled in our home care program, the first thing you get, and even if you're not sure if you want to be enrolled, but we'll come out and do an assessment. We'll talk to you about what services we can offer. We can make suggestions on what might be beneficial. And if you choose to enroll, you would have a case manager that you can contact if you ever need to change your services, add things, take things away. Or you can say at the time of assessment, thank you. I think I'm good for now. I am glad to know it's out there, but I think I am okay. And that's fine too. And you've had that connection to us, and we love to get out and meet people and see if you're not ready for us now, we're here down the line. I also wanted to mention another service that all of the ASAPs do is Adult Protective Services. And this is the entity in the state that investigates allegations of suspected abuse, neglect, self-neglect, or financial exploitation. And we do this for adults 60 and over in the Somerville and Cambridge area. The reports come into us, and we screen them and then go out and talk with individuals, kind of get a sense of what's going on. Most of our reports, the majority of our reports are for self-neglect, and that's for things like individuals who are not getting to their medical appointments, not taking their medications as prescribed, maybe having falls in the community or at home, and hoarding. Maybe they have clutter in their home and they're unable to kind of get around safely, or they might be at risk of eviction. The one thing I like to say about protective services, and my protective services director would be very angry if I didn't say this, is this isn't, protective services isn't, we're not aiming to come in, see what's going wrong, and then kind of shuffle someone to a nursing home. We really want to work with individuals on what can we do how can we work together? How can we support you so that you can stay living in the community safely? And so that's really kind of what the goal is. We want to work with you and work with families to keep them in the setting of their choice, which, like I said, is generally at home. If you suspect someone that you know is either in an abusive situation or neglecting themselves, or maybe being neglected by other family members, and you want to report, I'm going to put a phone number in the chat so you have that information. I think it's important to tell people that, these might be your friends. You are concerned about them, and they may not be happy that you're reporting, but you might feel that you have to because someone is unsafe. We keep the identity of the reporter confidential. So we'll go in and work with that individual, and we're not going to say, Liz Aguilo called and reported on you. That's not our role. We know that you want to maintain, your good relationships with individuals. So that is confidential information. I'm not going to spend too much time on our adult family care program. This is a program, our adult foster care program, where we can match individuals, or we can support individuals who are living with family members, and then give them a stipend for the care that they're providing for individuals. Adult family care families have a nurse and a social worker who are assigned to them, who come out and meet with you monthly and kind of provide support and education. And what I wanted to touch on that is that during the pandemic, we kind of moved away from scenarios. Another way the program can work is that we can match individuals with homes where people can live and get that care. So we're just kind of starting that again, and we're starting to look for families or individuals who may have space in their house and would welcome having someone come live with them and providing some care and support. And if that is something that you're interested in, or if you know of someone else, I'll put an email link in the chat that you can send information out or ask us more questions about. The last thing I wanted to mention is our community support center. And this is really where you can go with any questions about services in our area, whether they're services of ours or services that just things that you need in the community. We get very simple questions like, do you have the number for the Cambridge Council on Aging? Do you know of any hairdressers who do home visits? We keep a lot of resources and we can send those out. We also get more complicated questions like, my mother was living independently in Cambridge. Everything was fine. She slipped on the snow. She broke a hip. She was hospitalized, then went to rehab. Now she can't drive. She's experiencing, some pain and isolation at home. What do I do? We'll talk with you about kind of any scenario. I have a couple of my coworkers on this in this Zoom meeting. We love a challenge. Please call us with any kind of questions, and we can kind of talk through what we can do to support you and to provide resources and information. I just have a couple quick takeaways that I think are often sort of myths about the ASAPs. We're not an organization that just serves individuals on Mass Health or Medicaid, or that are lower income. We have a lot of programs that we don't ask a single thing about income, that are really open up to anyone. So please just call us if there's anything that you need, no matter what, your financial situation is or what you can or are able to pay. Our services are generally not insurance-based. So if you need home care, we're not going to say, well, we need to call Blue Cross and see what they're going to do, and you should switch to this plan. We're state subsidized for most of our programs are not insurance-based. We're not a VNA. VNAs will come in. We often get confused with VNAs and kind of work with individuals short-term after a medical event. But we're not. If you need us in long-term, if you need us in for a period and then you go away and come back, we can work with you, and we're not going to call your doctor and say, hey, can you approve Mr. Jones for this service? And my last thing is really to just call us. If there's anything I'm not mentioning here that could be of a resource, we'd love to hear from you. So again, I'm going to put the elder abuse number in the chat, our email address, and then one quick, short one-page document that kind of helps to explain what we do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Annie.
Mhm.
All right. So and again, the things that Annie puts in the chat, I will send out afterwards as well, tomorrow, most likely. All right. So I would like to welcome next. And if what Annie has said prompted questions, you're free to write them in the chat too, and we'll take them afterwards. So our next speaker is Liz Aguilo from Paine Senior Services. So
Hi,
Liz.
everyone. Thank you for, again, thank you for having us. I'm from Paine Senior Services, which has been around since 1905, actually. And we're affiliated with the First Parish Unitarian Church based in Harvard Square, which is where our office is. However, we primarily do home visits. And I'm going to start with kind of like the misunderstandings that people might have when they hear that we're social workers. We're staffed by 2 full-time social workers, licensed independent clinical social workers. So we have the training and skills and experience to do counseling, but we also, we get a lot of referrals where people need practical help. So the 2
Liz?
misunderstandings, yep.
You should tell me when you want your slides up.
Oh yeah, if you want to share them now, that'd be great. Thank you, Kathy. So I'll just keep talking. The two myths that people, or misconceptions people have, I don't know why that's doing that. The 2 misconceptions people have when they hear we're social workers is they think that we only help people who don't have any resources, and so they immediately think, we don't really need your services. But the only requirements that we have are that people are at least 60 and over, and live in Cambridge. And we also work closely with families too who have a family member here in Cambridge that they're worried about. We do an assessment, just as Annie talked about, where we try to get better information about your situation. Usually people do call us because they're having questions. They're a little anxious. Maybe they're struggling. They want to know what's available to them in the way of services. And often they also want to think about what are their resources for the future. On this slide, you'll see that there's our website for more information and our phone number. If again, as Annie said, if you have any questions, please feel free to just call us. We do have a sliding scale fee, but there's no cost for any initial meetings that we have, just to figure out if there's work you want to that we can do together. And we have situations where we waive the fee as well. Next slide, please. And so this is just myself and Maureen. We're the 2 full-time staff. Last week, we actually took on an intern too from BU, and he's studying to be a social worker as well. So you'll see the same slide if you go to our website, and it just tells you a little bit about us. I always think it helps to see faces too. And the next slide, please. So as I said, we meet with you. What are your current needs? To talk to you about options and available resources. Sometimes it'll be helpful to be connected with Somerville Cambridge Elder Services and the services that they provide, or your local council on aging as well has some great resources, exercise classes, other classes, informational sessions. And it's a great place to, if you're trying to build your social network, to start meeting people. I think was in a meeting earlier this week, we just talked about how that isolation really took its toll for all of us on our mental health, and reminded us that we have to find ways to build our informal social networks, because when you're locked in your house and need to know who's going to get my groceries for me, maybe you're connected to an agency, maybe not. But it's a good idea to start looking at your social networks for practical things, and also that emotional support. And as we help you plan for the future, we can talk with you about things like, do you have someone in your life that can serve as your healthcare proxy? So there's some really practical, serious decisions that everyone sort of needs to plan for. and so we can talk you through that. As I said, we're both licensed clinical social workers, so we have the training and the ability and the experience. I think between Maureen and I, as I said, we have about 50 years of experience to sort of call on. It's hard. It's very individual, the work that we do. Often we can follow people long term, and those tend to be people who are maybe struggling with a chronic medical issue, maybe a dementia issue, and sort of be with them. And for some people, that's accompanying them to medical appointments or helping prepare them for medical appointments. What questions do you have? What do you want to make sure you talk to your doctor about? If we're there with them, hearing information, but trying to tease out what does that mean for someone's practical daily functioning. So sometimes I tell people we're like professional daughters in a way. It gets a little complicated to explain what we do, but it really is sort of individualized, supportive social work. And if there are things that you need that are beyond our purview, we help you find those resources as well. So if there are any questions, feel free to call. Our phone number is here on the screen. And I know Kathy will probably send these out too, these slides out to everyone.
Absolutely. Great. So thank you so much, Liz, and thank you all. So our final speaker is Susan Pacheco from the Cambridge Council on Aging. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you all. So as Kathy introduced myself, I am Susan Pacheco, an Executive Director of the Cambridge Council on Aging. You are going to hear me call it the COA. It's easier, less of a mouthful than Cambridge Council on Aging. We are part of the City of Cambridge government, and we specifically are under the Department of Human Service programs. We are an agency that provides resources and activities for older adults being defined as anyone over the age of 60. We have 2 locations that we serve at. We have 2 senior centers. We have the Cambridge Senior Center, which is at 806 Mass Ave, which is right in Central Square, Cambridge, across from City Hall, right between the YMCA and the post office. Our hours there, we are opened Mondays, 8:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., Tuesdays through Thursdays, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 12 noon. We also operate the North Cambridge Senior Center, which is at 2050 Mass Ave, which is actually a part of the Russell Apartments, which is through the Cambridge Housing Authority. And we are open there Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have a variety of programs and services that we provide. And Liz just actually touched upon some of the services that we provide in order to be able to augment or create individual social circles. And that is very important to keep people active, engaged in activities and programs. When you come into the senior centers, what you will see are offerings such as health, wellness, and mindfulness classes, both in person as well as virtual. We have art and enrichment activities, social and support groups, culturally based programs, day trips, ESOL, which stands for English Speakers of Other Language classes, meals programs, information and referral, case management, and Shine counseling. Shine counseling is insurance counseling. We have certified staff here that are certified through the state. And I know Somerville Cambridge Elder Services has these individuals, as well as Maureen Hardy from Paine Senior Services are all Shine counselors. They can work with anyone who's on Medicare looking to see alternative prescription drug plans, other insurance carriers, like during your open enrollment period or during other, times in your life that you may need to change. So that is an important service that we offer here at the Council on Aging. We have recreation equipment that people seek out a lot. We have billiards tables with a very active pool league. We have a ping pong table with many active ping pongers. I don't know if that's the correct term, but that's what I'll call it. And then we do have a computer lab, which provides tech help And we do have a Chromebook lending program. So if you are looking to borrow a Chromebook, we are able to provide one to you on loan. Just an example of fitness classes, we have Zumba Gold, mat yoga, strong and stretched, line dancing, chair exercise, flamenco, tango, flamenco dance, yoga and meditation for heart health. Our art and enrichment classes, we just began within the month a portrait drawing class, music instrument lessons, chorus, introduction to theater, clay sculpting class. In our mindfulness classes, there are Qigong, balance Qigong, Tai Chi, meditation class, meditation and mandala. And for our social and support groups, we consider bingo as part of that support group because there's quite an informal group and friendships that are formed there. Board and card games, a women's group, a men's group, a veterans and friends support group, a crafts and social group, a book club, film and discussion, LGBTQ plus film series. So there are many things that are going on, and we're always looking for many more ideas and suggestions from everyone who comes through the building or who has not come through the building and wants to see something. And if we can make it happen in one of our centers, we most definitely will. To give you an idea of our meals program, we have a full-time food service manager at our site at the 806 Mass Ave. We work in collaboration with Somerville Cambridge Elder Services with their congregate meals program. Our food service manager cooks on site twice a week on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Lunch is served Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 12:30, and there is a suggested donation of $3. And there is also a cold and grab go lunch option. So for many people who may be coming in for the hot meal at lunch, may need just a grab and go in order to have later on, because we want to make sure that, that you coming in, that your nutrition is well balanced and that you're having more than one square meal a day. And as I said, lunch is cooked on site Tuesdays and Wednesdays and catered in from City Fresh, which is a vendor that supplies the meals on the Mondays and the Thursdays. We're looking to see how we can increase once we staff up a little bit more in order to have more on-site cooking days. To give you an example, just our meal sites, when we cook on site, we are up to about 70 individuals coming in during that hour to come in for a really hot, delicious meal. Upcoming meals, just so you get an idea of a menu. I always want to share a menu. Fish tacos with cilantro lime rice, grilled corn green salad, churros. And how about a beef noodle soup and bok choy? Sounds pretty good to me. But we can't really compete with the restaurants here in Cambridge in Central Square, but we're trying to do our best and making sure that as an older adult coming into the senior center, you're registering with us, you're getting a nutritious hot meal, and also so important to, as what Liz said, creating a friendship circle, coming in for lunch, sitting down next to someone, sparking up a conversation, creating those informal connections that are so important. And I can't stress that enough, and I see that every day when I walk through our senior center. When I talk about meals at our North Cambridge Senior Center, the City Fresh vendor caterer, they provide the meals at the North Cambridge Senior Center Monday through Friday. Again, what is necessary is that you are an individual over the age of 60. We do look, for the most part, are you a Cambridge resident? But at the same time, I like what Kathy just said before we logged on. We don't necessarily check passports. So you're welcome to come in, but we will card you if you look a little under 60. So, and we often do get that. People will want to come in and people will say, well, why can't I just participate here? This looks like fun. Well, you got to wait a few more years. And then we also have the opposite spectrum. We can have someone coming in who's 91 years old and said, I'm not old enough to be here yet. So we get it all. But that's just the beauty of working with this population, because we're, one of the things that's so unique, we're working with 40 years, 4 decades of individuals. We're working from anyone from age 60 to 100 plus. And 40 years, that's a lot of differences. So we need to make sure that we listen to people, we hear what people want, And we try to do our best to make that happen. Again, under client services, we're talking about like the senior centers and what we do, and people want to come in and, and participate in all the fun activities. But client services, just as Annie talks about like the services that aren't as, shiny and, all the things like the protective services and all those things that we're doing to provide services to the more isolated elder in the community, we're also doing a lot of the same thing here. We do the information referral, similar to what SCS does. It's basically a front door. It's a gateway to services. You can call us, you can ask, what is it that you do? Or I'm looking for this. My mother's getting discharged from the hospital. What kind of resources are out there? It can be anything. And we get calls on anything, but that's what we sort of consider ourselves as the gateway, where you call us. And then if we're not able to, be able to provide the direct service, we're going to get you to the agency that can. Talked about the SHINE counseling, which is the all-important insurance and prescription drug coverage. We do the case management, and this often is for individuals who are very much not service connected. We'll get a referral from, one of the city agencies or one of the partners that we work with in the community. They're not affiliated with any sort of agency, but they're struggling. So we can do that outreach, we can do that case management, and with the goal of making sure that we're connecting them to services, we're that bridge to services. Now, we may, after we refer them to SCS or to Paine Senior Services, we may actually step out, or we may actually continue because we'll continue to fit some sort of a niche of need for that individual. We provide transportation services. We have a contract with door-to-door transportation. That is medical transportation for individuals 60 and over, needing to Cambridge resident and needing to go to, the Longwood medical area, MGH, Cambridge Hospital, Mount Auburn Hospital, whatever it may be, is setting up services through door-to-door. It also allows for a Cambridge resident over the age of 60 to be able to go grocery shopping once a week. Again, very easy service, calling the number for door-to-door, which is 617-625-1191. And you just have to give your name, your address, and your age. Basically, that's all it. And then where you're going. And they will say how they can accommodate it. We do have some taxi discount coupons, but I know, as we all know, the taxi industry is more and more decimated, but there's still a good little fleet of taxis out there. And we do provide, you register with us and we provide some discount coupons for Cambridge residents. And basically, I talked a lot more of the fitness classes, but, just thinking about something else that's very important is art and enrichment, watercolors, acrylic painting. Our introduction to theater has just been immensely, immensely popular. Our book club, I think I saw a couple of people on this call that are very active book readers and are part of our book club. It's just the titles that are selected each month and the discussion that happens. It's just, we are looking to be able to provide, again, I'll repeat, programs and activities that will enrich the lives of older adults. We may not have something specific that you're looking for, but please suggest it. And if we are able to make it happen, we'll make it happen. But that is actually it for me right now, and happy to answer any questions. You're muted, Kathy.
Thank you, Susan. We'll have some questions coming up in a moment. And there is everyone for just a moment. So we had a couple of questions that came in advance, and I'm wondering, Laura McMurray, you have several questions. I'm wondering if the first question you sent me ahead of time about sudden unanticipated disability, would you like to unmute yourself and ask that question?
I was wondering, what happens if you have a sudden disability? You find suddenly overnight practically that you can't walk or you can't get out of bed, but you want to stay at home. I know it's usually better to arrange for a potential home care ahead of time. Is that what we should do? Or what do we do?
Oh, I'll let any of the presenters go for that. Maybe Cambridge, Somerville, Cambridge, or the council, whoever would like to take it.
I think that's a great question, and we know that this happens. I would say the first thing is medical clearance. I think in those situations, that's a 911 call to be evaluated by EMTs and probably to be brought in and be evaluated. So I think I would start there to kind of see what the needs are. As we know, sometimes things like this clear up quickly. Sometimes it means that there's something more serious. I'll be completely honest, we can't get out the same day or the next day, but we generally in those situations would get a referral from your medical providers that kind of give us a sense of what's going on, and we'll get out as soon as we can to get services started. In those situations also, oftentimes a VNA, a Visiting Nurse Association, will do the initial piece at home, and then we'll come in at some point during that process to start, with our personal care and homemaking and whatever services it is you need.
Great.
But you're right, it's so tricky. We can't plan, you can be perfectly healthy. You can't say, I'm going to get, someone here just in case.
And
That's
if
a
I can
challenge.
just add, I know, Laura, you are, saying it's sort of the extreme. You wake up and you can't move and you're looking for services, et cetera. When I hear that, that sounds very emergency based. And I just want to clearly say, none of the agencies that are speaking and presenting today, we are not emergency response. That is first and foremost. I think that's important to always say, because sometimes we do get those calls that there's a situation happening in that moment. We are not emergency response. And what Annie stated, that's correct. It's like you can start pre-planning a lot of things, and you certainly want to start knowing all the resources that are available. And I think that's the purpose of this presentation. You know the resources that are available, and you can start planning out things. But there are many things that can't be actually in place until something actually occurs. Like there is like that medical, and then as Annie said, getting the medical clearance and the referral for such services, et cetera. So I think that's just an important thing to state as well.
So you have to get medical approval of your issue.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm going to just reiterate, if you suddenly can't walk, there's something acute happening and a doctor needs to help you figure out what's going on. And then you can sort of plan for what do I need? We like to talk to people about your options before you get to that point. So maybe you have an agency that's providing some in-home services now, so you already have that connection, but also that you've looked at other options in the community. I like to ask people to look at assisted living, for instance, or even some of the elder housing just before they need it, so they know what's there and you're not making plans or decisions in the middle of a crisis, because it's hard. We also work with people to, what are your financial resources? Really look at what are your financial resources, because it's expensive to have in-home care and it's expensive to live in assisted living. So to even start with the reality of finances and how they play into your personal situation, because you can do the best you can to plan ahead, but there is always, like, if you wake up like that and you can't walk, you can't anticipate that. So yeah, I mean, if something like that happens, there's some medical thing that's happening, you need to get checked out.
All right, thank you, Liz. So we have a question in the chat from Mary Fox about services that might be available to her and her friend from Belmont. And I think that question is going to be different for each agency. So I'm going to ask Susan Pacheco to start. Mary, you want to ask your question, and then Susan can answer first, and then the other agencies. Mary, do you want to unmute yourself?
I am. I think I'm unmuted. Thank
Yep.
you. So my friend and I just recently started to talk about wanting to gather a group of women, if we could, like-minded women that might be interested in concerts, going to concerts or movies, other cultural events, maybe traveling together. She lives in Belmont. And so I wondered if any of your services could help us create this, and whether, since she's not in Cambridge, whether she'd be able to be included in whatever service, or support you could give me as a Cambridge resident.
So let me see if I can, first of all, we welcome anyone over the age of 60 at either one of our centers, the North Cambridge Senior Center or the Cambridge Senior Center. So your friend from Belmont is more than welcome. We actually have many different individuals that come here from Belmont, Arlington, Somerville, Quincy, Brighton, Alston, Watertown, many different surrounding communities that visit our centers and participate in our programs. There are very few things that we actually limit to Cambridge residents. Now we do during the we're doing some day trips right now, but for the most part, our trip season is very much in the spring and summer into early fall, and then we sort of suspend trips. If you're looking for a gathering of, bringing together women and doing more of a social support group, if I'm just going to answer it in that way, we do have currently a women's group that meets once a month at the Cambridge Senior Center, and it's facilitated by a retired psychiatric nurse who just had an interest in gathering women together and just talking about just transitions, about what's going on in their lives, about whatever it may be, and they've created a wonderful social group. Now, to going towards as far as asking about facilitating your group and wanting to do trips, we wouldn't participate in that formation of a group that you personally then with others creating trips. We would be doing trips throughout our centers, if that makes sense. It wouldn't be assisting you and your friend and a couple of other women who have joined your group to solely do trip groups, like a trip club. We would not be doing that. We can't do that.
Would any of the other presenters like to give a brief answer to this question? We have so many good questions coming up.
Yeah, I will. I've worked really closely, like the client lives in Cambridge, because we only work with Cambridge, but they might have friends who are sort of in a caregiver role, but live even out of state. So we've worked with them in their sort of caregiving capacity, giving advice, providing support, and also we're the person that sees the person in Cambridge and letting them know sort of what our observations are. So we work with people from other towns and state in that, and in their role as a caregiver.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to the next question, and from Rosalind. Rosalind, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. I'll let you do that yourself, about your friend who needs constant care. I think the answer will be about which organization to call first. So I want to ask it, and then we'll let folks field it. And then Ruth Goodman will go to you. I know you had your hand up after this.
Yeah, that I feel this might be sort of an ASAP Elder Services question. There certainly are facilities, right, assisted livings and nursing homes around, and if you wanted to call and get a list from us, we could certainly provide that and talk about what the different levels of care, different types of residences offer, and kind of how to pay for them. If your friend, however, does want to try to stay at home before looking at other options, I think that is a perfect time, even if they do need a lot of care, for us to come out and do an assessment and talk about options. I mean, under certain circumstances, there are times where we can provide daily care and a number of hours every day. So there is, potentially that opportunity. So.
Thank you, Annie. I think the question really was, is there somewhere a list of assisted living places? Uville, for example, if you're there, you have to really hire the help to come in, but there are others where it's provided in continuing care. Is there it would be like a matrix with things like various requirements and
it's tricky. I mean, most assisted livings, if you really need hands-on care multiple times a day, you're probably going to have to be paying extra on top of what they're providing. So that will be, let me think about that a little bit more, and I can send something to Kathy if I can think of a good website that provides that. But I think generally people often think of assisted livings as really providing 24/7 care, and they do a lot. They really do a lot. But if someone needs like hands-on care multiple times a day, you're usually going to probably have to pay a little more on top of what you're getting in your monthly fee.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ruth Goodman, I can't find your question in the chat, so maybe you could ask it out loud. And then Jess will see who else has got their hands up.
Susan may have already answered it. I asked if there was if Council on Aging has a listing of their events and classes online. I think Susan.
And I just added that.
Yes. Is that what that is?
Yes. And you'll always get the up-to-date, it's always posted. Our monthly newsletter is always posted with our calendar of events. And then everything that's updated, added throughout the month, it's also there. I would encourage people, if they wanted to contact me, we do have a constant contact that goes out twice a month, and you'll get the most updated things that are happening during that month. It is set up through our Cambridge Senior Center Director, Alicia Johnson. So I'm happy if people, I'll put my information in the chat. You can contact me, and if you wish to receive it, we can get you signed up with that.
Thanks.
Jess, do you have anybody? We'll get to you in a second, Helene. Jess, do you have anybody besides Helene who had their hand up beforehand?
I don't see any other hands up at the moment.
Well, we will call on Helene. Unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hi. I think I'm unmuted. In terms of assisted living, the assisted livings in Massachusetts are certified by the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And you can get on their website. I'll send it to Kathy, or she probably already has it. And regulations, there are regulations that they have to follow, clearly. I had been the director of the Cambridge Homes. There's also a, through the Mass Federation of Assisted Living Organizations, you can access them both online or get a paper copy of a directory of assisted livings.
Great. Helene introduced herself as the former director of the Cambridge Homes. She's also on the board of at least a couple of the organizations presenting today, as well as Cambridge Neighbors. So, I know we have another couple of questions from Laura McMurray. Does anybody else have a question?
Hi, I have a question. My name is Anne, and I actually sit on a condo board, and I'm attending the meeting on behalf of the board because there's a broken elevator, and the elevator will be out of commission for 3 months, likely May through August. And we have several residents in the building who rely on the elevator. So I'm wondering where I should go with the first call or advice to the residents. Is it to get an assessment of their needs, or where would be the best place to start in that scenario? Thank you.
Before the speaker answers, Annie, I suggest you contact me because I'm very active in this field with condos, and I may have some other information for your board. So now, to answer the question,
do you mind giving me your name again? Sorry, I'm in the car and I can't see. Kathy Dalton.
Kathy
Perfect.
Dalton.
Thanks,
You'll get an email with the information.
I will. Perfect. Thank you.
So, who can field this?
I think, it really depends on the individual's needs. And I'm not sure what the obligation of the condo is to accommodate people who rely on the elevator to get to doctor's appointments, to all sorts of things. If they rely on an elevator, that means there's stairs that they cannot get down. Again, so I don't know what the obligation is of the condo board to accommodate those clients. I mean, shopping is one thing, you can have groceries delivered, but for other important appointments like that, I would think the trustee should consult an attorney.
Yes, that's going to be my end of the conversation, but
Yeah,
I
that
think-
has been my experience as well. There has been more of a formal entity there to be able to make sure that depending on, the condo association, how many condo units there are, et cetera, and what the obligation is of the entire association in order to accommodate any resident in that building that has any sort of disability. There have been accommodations made. I've worked with, I've known of individuals that have had, a lot of accommodations being made by the trustees or the condo association, making sure that they are making the runs for those individuals, like picking up prescriptions, doing the grocery shopping, et cetera. I've had a history of that and have seen that. But there's other difficulties if you're talking about emergency response, if you're talking about if something were to happen and the person needed to get out, it's making sure that that is indicated to, I would actually do another plug here for the disability indicator, making sure that they, through the communication, the emergency communications dispatch, that it is indicated that, Mary Smith, age 85, lives on 4th floor of condo that, without working elevator, in case there's any sort of an emergency, that is flagged, that would have to be a carry down. But there are a lot of things like that, and that's where community comes in as well.
Yeah, this is not fixing that problem by any means. I mean, we can, Meals on Wheels could help get food. We can do grocery delivery. We can do that, but I think that doesn't fix the bigger problem of someone not being able to get to medical appointments, the isolation, and certainly the emergency response. I will say a service that is really, we're not going to fix this in this hour meeting, but a service that is really hard to find is a company that will do a carry down, will carry someone down in a wheelchair. It's really ambulance is the only service, unfortunately, that can do it. It's something that the state would allow us to pay for. We just cannot find a vendor who will do it, unfortunately.
Not just the carry down, but sometimes just getting people in wheelchairs over the hump. The rental going out their door has become a problem. In some cases, I'll just say this briefly, the best choice may be a temporary relocation.
And that has happened as well as
some associations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
right,
know
we're gonna-
even with the elder housing, that's what they had to do. They temporarily relocated residents, so.
And there's a different obligation if it's depending on if it's an owner or a tenant and who has the obligation. So we're not going to go into that now. Jess, do we have any other questions in the chat?
I don't think so. I'm seeing just people posting links and helpful information. But I don't see any hands or any other new questions in the chat at the moment.
You're ready for another question or two. So get your hands up if you would like to ask a question. Okay, Laura McMurray, you asked about the referral, if one can self-refer to FriendshipWorks.
Right.
Yeah.
I assume so, but the form on there is all geared for somebody referring you as a benefit, like a social worker.
First of all, hi, Laura, this is Janet. First of all, you can refer yourself, definitely. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
You can refer yourself, and also you can call our office. I'll give you that phone number if you have a pencil, or we can send it so it'll be included. Kathy can give it to you, and just bear with the, it takes a little while to get the right things, but you can also, I can let people know you might call, but there is a phone number you can call. You might get a voicemail, but somebody will call you back. And if you have an email, you can email me and I'll make sure that somebody calls you. So that's another way. Those are two different ways to do it. If the form doesn't allow you to do that, I actually would have to look at that. I thought it did, but I will check into that myself. But in the meantime, just call or email and we'll make sure that you can get a kind self-referral.
Thank you.
I'm going to thank all of our wonderful presenters today. It's been great to have the four of you as well as your support staff here. I know there are probably more questions.
I agree.
You will be able to, hold on, I'm having a little tech problem here, but let's see if I can talk fast. We will have a good follow-up going out to all of you. I'd also like to share this information, which you will get later on from us, as well as it's always just a little technology that's making life difficult. There we go. I invite all of you, there we are, to visit our website as well. And eventually this video will be, a link to this video will be posted there as well, agassiz.org, Living Well. And we look forward to continuing to share information to all of you to help all of us age successfully in place and in a healthful and happy way. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at future events.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you.
You.